All righty. That's step one. All right, we are live and I'm gonna get us recorded. Victor's checking his last, closing deals. Closing deals, right? Let me get us recorded to the cloud. So our listeners can be like logging in. Yes, I know we are a few minutes behind. Our apologies for that. Just double checking and we're good. We're live. Okay, here we go. Let's go, showtime.
All right, showtime to the last moment.
I know.
Text messages.
Exactly, like making it happen. Yes, we'll accept your offer right now, right?
Something like that.
Hey, I'm so excited, you guys. Listen, I was just telling Victor, my allergies are terrible, so I have something in my mouth. So for you listeners, I probably will edit this part out, maybe not. 3 years ago, I had this idea. And I brainstormed with you and Sharmila about this. Remember? And I got you guys baseball hats too.
Yeah, I remember that.
The inaugural like playing to win baseball hat. Because I was talking about how can we add value because the world had shut down.
Yes, I remember.
Remember? And people weren't coming in. We were coming in, but people weren't coming in. And I was like, what if I started this show called Playing to Win? Because people are living in this mindset of playing not to lose.
Exactly.
And playing not to lose is defensive. It's survival. It's just keeping your head above water.
Exactly. Versus being on offense and saying, hey, things are going to work out. And if this is not working out, which other path do I need to take?
Right. And that's how Playing to Win was born.
I love that. That's a great mindset.
Isn't that amazing? And that's just stuff I've learned through the years through all of the training that we go to. But you were my very first guest. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And we were sitting, I didn't have that. I had my bookshelf. It was very crowded. And we would talk about all different things, but now I've really honed that skill. And then I launched my podcast, the second half, about 8 months later. So, because in September, that was my 2-year anniversary of my podcast. But what I learned through that was really, it's kind of like I do everybody's life story.
Yeah.
That's on the show.
Yeah.
And so I realized when I was looking at my library of awesomeness, I call it, because I didn't have a Victor Nino episode.
Oh.
And so that's why I said, Victor, can you come please back on the show? And I want to get your story. And so, but I want to just publicly say thank you for being my guinea pig when I first launched, because you were the first person in that chair.
Yeah, that was cool. Well, it was a little different because it was on Zoom, right?
Right, it was on Zoom. And
cool.
what were you just telling me before?
When I got on Zoom. Oh yeah. So we had our first team meeting during the lockdowns.
Yeah.
And everybody was at home. And I remember when I turned on my screen, Chris Ott started laughing, and he told, I don't know who, was like, I told you he was gonna be wearing a suit. And this was at home too, but I thought it was just pretty funny. But that I just feel odd not dressing up when I'm working. Because that's just, I feel like it's my uniform.
Right.
You know, and I'll tell you this, I mean, when it comes to dress code, I know we live in a day and age now where, you know, the typical pushback is like, hey, you know what? You could be next to a billionaire and they're dressed like they have $10 in the bank.
Exactly. Right.
But the thing is this, I'm not a billionaire. And maybe and if I ever get close, then maybe I can dress like I have $10 in the bank. Yeah. But the way I see it is just out of respect, I like dressing up for my clients, right? And for me, you know, it's just automatic. I wake up and it's like the same thing. I told my wife, I'm like, you know what? I don't want you to buy me any other shirt. I just want white shirts, baby blue shirts. That's it. Easy.
Simplification.
You
know what's funny though, Victor? I'm the same way. Now I don't wear a suit. Obviously, I don't have a suit on for those people watching, but on the podcast later on that listen on. But I dress every day up. I'm ready for opportunity. Yeah. Anytime, any day, I could have an appointment with somebody, and you just never know when that is. And I really respect that about you. You are always ready to like take that appointment. Like, what if you're at the office and somebody says, hey, can you be here in 30 minutes? I do believe that how you show up matters because it's a perception thing and you're professional. And I think you do just a really great job of showing up. So I totally relate to that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I mean, I've had people actually tell me after a listing appointment and just thanking me, it's like, wow, you're the only one that dressed up.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I tell them, I'm like, hey, well, I do because out of respect for you, you guys are looking to hire someone. This is my interview. Right. And think about it. If you're going to go to an interview in a traditional job, how are you going to dress up, right? So you want to make sure that you are looking your best. as much as possible.
You know, excuse me with my allergies. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I should have tea here, but it's gonna get better. It's gonna.
Thing
We're
it
gonna
wasn't
get
the
going.
lockdowns. I'd be like,
I know.
I'd be
I
like
promise
standing
it's
in the
not that,
corner.
Exactly. But you think about it with selling homes, right?
Yeah.
What do? Is we want to show the most beautiful parts of anybody's home.
Yeah.
And so I think there's just a mindset, and that's not a judgment thing. Again, it should be natural for you. But I always say, just dress up, whatever that is for you. Dress the way like you're ready for opportunity.
Exactly. And the reality is this, I know that the nice and acceptable thing to say is, oh, no judgment, but people judge all day, every day. Even the ones that say no judgment.
Right.
So there's judgment.
Right.
No.
And if you have a relationship existing with like your sphere, and a lot of you that have done this a long time, that's a little different. But I don't know. I'm just people walk in and they want to talk to somebody about Keller Williams. I'm gonna be ready for it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna be ready for it.
Yeah. So like you said, you want to be prepared. You don't know who you're gonna meet.
Right.
If you end up getting someone in here that does a ton of business, they're very professional and so forth, then that could be the edge, right?
Right.
So that's awesome. Should I get it closer?
We're just gonna pull it closer to us.
Perfect.
Okay, because we're kind of far back.
Perfect.
We're a little far further back than normal.
Yes, we're relaxing too much.
I know. We're like, hey. No, here's the deal though. Here's who's Victor Nino. Victor Nino, I'm so excited to have you on my show today, or have you back on the show. But the first time for the podcast, your team did $2.8 million GCI last year.
Yes, they did great.
Almost 300 homes sold.
Yeah, they did really, really well. And I'll tell you this, I think it comes down to environment and expectations and, just pushing each other to be better. And then also when you have momentum, to keep that momentum. And I think that's the toughest thing when things start going real well and you start making, closing a few deals. Then you say, hey, you know what? Let me go on vacation, or let me take some days off. Let me work half days. Let me just relax a little too much. And then you lose that momentum. And I think momentum matters a lot. And not only that, but one of the things that has been helping a lot is being very purposeful on our social media. And this is a thing that I actually learned during the lockdowns. And I learned this from Andres and from Diego, how they were still focused exclusively on listing homes, things about real estate. I was focusing on current events and so forth. And you know how that is. Yeah. Everybody has a point of view. And if you share certain things, some people may not like that. And what I understood is that, you know what, my social media is a channel, and if I want to watch TV and I want to watch sports, where do I go? ESPN. If I want to watch stuff about travel, I go to the travel channel. If I want to watch real estate related stuff, I go to HGTV. If I want to fill my mind with killings, wars, thefts, et cetera, where do I go? I watch the news.
You watch the news.
So then I said, you know what? I obviously do not know the whole story of what's happening in our current events. So therefore, I'm just going to focus on what I know a lot more than any other subject, which is real estate. And it's positivity. It's about real estate. It's about us being able to, take our life to the next level. And frankly, that's helped a lot because the team has embraced that. Yeah. So we do constantly put stories, videos of stuff that we're doing, pictures of, homes that we put under contract and so forth. So that way people, when they see us, they think real estate.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how social media has evolved through all this as well. And then I want to get to your story because I want them to know who you are. But we just had Andres, who's one of your agents on here. Andres Bustamante.
Oh, you had him on?
Oh, well, not on the show. Yeah, I should have him on. I will have him on, in fact.
And
I love Andres.
Julio,
I know, there's so many names.
Everybody.
There's enough room for everybody on this show because this is my library of awesomeness. And so, but he was just in the market center teaching actually twice last week. But one was just social media, and he had his photographer or his cinematographer. He brought him in, and he's really upped his game. Right, when you watch his stuff, like everything he's doing is super professional, and that's where people are, is they're online. So I find it fascinating. I mean, he's working with soccer players.
I know, isn't that cool?
Oh, my God, it's so cool. You just asking me, hey,
professional soccer players.
Portuguese the other day. It's like, hey, I'm representing a Brazilian guy. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah. Now we have a new team member. She speaks Portuguese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, they're perfect. So here's what I just wanted to set the stage that Victor and his team, the Nino team at Keller Williams, they do a lot of real estate. But it wasn't always like that, right? And so I want to back it up because the Victor Nino people see today is not where your story began.
Exactly.
And that's what's so powerful about it, because I think people, like, this show is all about inspiring people to have their greatest lives and to never give up. I mean, I don't know. And again, I try to not make this timely, but the second half is where you win or lose the game. That's why the podcast is actually called The Second Half, because it's the second half, the second life of this show. But it's also that people who never give up, they lean in. Just, you know, you mentioned complacency. They don't get complacent. They just get better and better and better. And that's what I watch you and your team doing, is you're just focused on getting better and better and better. But you didn't start there.
Exactly.
And so people can't relate to that. So I want to back it up, and I want to talk about your personal journey a little bit today. All right.
Perfect.
So let's back it up, and you know, where were you born? Tell us about who's the real big Virginia? Where'd you come from?
So the funny thing is this: back in the day when I used to share where I'm from, nobody knew, and now it's all over the news. So I am from Eagle Pass, Texas.
Oh yes, now people know where that is, right?
Worldwide. Yeah, so Eagle Pass, Texas. I was born and raised there, and it was an interesting upbringing, just because, unlike most other, Americans that grow up here in the United States, I was right on the border. So every weekend, or the majority of the weekends, we would go to Mexico. We would hang out at my, my dad's ranch or my uncle's ranch, or being in town and so forth. So I saw both worlds. I saw a world where there was a lot of scarcity.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw a world of abundance in the U.S.
Wow.
Even though I was in a small town in probably one of the poorest counties in the country.
Wow.
Yet I did see the difference.
Wow.
I'll tell you, when I was about 6 years old, I had my first business. It was a snow cone stand. I used to sell used clothes with my parents in Mexico. So we would get clothes from the U.S. and then go and sell in Mexico. I sold tortillas door to door. And imagine trying to sell tortillas where it's predominantly Latinos. And back in the day, the moms would make tortillas at home. So it's like, right? Really? Like, think about it.
Nice Eskimos, right?
Yeah, it's like being in Italy and trying to sell pizza door to door. It's like, we make it here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then, I did lawns, handyman work, all kinds of stuff, flower delivery, you name it. Like, there were all kinds of things that I ended up doing before I was even 13 years old.
Wow.
So that is the short version of my first 13 years. I did play sports growing up. And that was one thing that I think helped a lot, because that competitive edge is there.
What'd you play?
Baseball and basketball.
Ooh.
And it was so cool. My middle brother, not LC, but my brother Jesus, was a great baseball player. And I always wanted to be like him. And it was so funny because they would hear my name and all the coaches wanted to have me in their team. Even without trying, right?
But you're his brother?
Yeah, exactly. By association, right?
Association,
yeah. So playing sports helped a lot. I think that now gets to translate into, doing well in real estate. Yeah. Frankly, at 17, I moved out of my house, moved to Austin. I stayed with my brother, probably with LC, for about 3 months until I was 18, because I could not rent an apartment
on your own.
I was not allowed to rent an apartment because I was underage.
Right.
So at 19, I was about to buy a car. My brother LC convinced me to buy a house. I bought a house, rented out rooms. It was the start of my real estate investment career, frankly. Yeah. And then at 24, I bought my first duplex. And I still remember this lady. She was probably like in her mid 60s, and she would call me Don Victor, like Mr. Victor. And I was like, so weird. Yeah. So weird. Yeah. So that's how it started.
Let's back it up, because you went woo really fast. So at 6 years old, you start these entrepreneurial ventures, right? Selling, whether it's snow cones or used clothes, tortillas, whatever. Were your older brothers doing that too? Or was that, were you like an entrepreneurial family? Like, this is what you do? Like, where'd you get that from?
So it's a little different, because my brother LC is 10 years older than me. So if he ever calls me his older brother, he is the older brother.
For the record, we have it now documented.
I know, right? It's been documented now. Yes. So yeah, but it's kind of interesting, and people don't know this about my brother, but he used to, take care of cattle and staying in the ranch and doing all kinds of stuff back then. But he's 10 years older than me. So it was a little bit different. We did, my parents had a food truck. Is he the oldest, or is his No, my sister. My sister's the oldest. Okay. She lives in California, but she's 13 years older than me.
Okay.
So by the time, I was probably 7, no, like 5, she was already out of high school and,
Right.
and in college
So you
and
had
so
like
forth.
kind of adult-ish kind of siblings, yeah.
Exactly. And so my siblings, we would all help my parents out. I remember when I was probably like 5, I started getting asked to clean the taco truck. And that was before they were cool. Now, like,
Yeah,
taco
now
trucks
taco
are
trucks are
cool.
cool.
Back then, not so much. But my brother Jesus and myself, we used to clean the truck after school.
So they were
So it was a
entrepreneurs.
responsibility,
Yeah,
and we
business owners.
needed to make sure
Okay.
that it was clean for the next day.
Yeah.
So it's like structure.
Yeah.
As I look back, it's kind of interesting, right? You know, sometimes we go through life and have certain experiences, and we don't really know all the benefits of it and all the lessons until we look back in life later on. Right?
Always.
Once we mature.
Always.
Yeah.
And,
If we
and
mature.
in fact, there'll be more lessons that you learn along your journey, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
we come back and we're like, oh my gosh, that's what that meant, right? That
Exactly.
I mean, we become who we are as adults from the things that happen in our childhood, which is so interesting. Which that's why I love people's life story of basically tell me where you came from, because it like success leaves clues.
Exactly.
So then let's go back to the time where you said you were going to buy a car.
Yes.
What kind of car was it?
So I was gonna buy a Ford Mustang.
Okay.
This was 1998.
Okay.
And I drove it. It was pretty cool because one of my friends, his good friend, worked at the dealership, and I was 19 years old. He gives me the keys. Imagine giving the keys to a teenager, brand new car.
Yeah.
I know, right? And I'm like driving, having a good time, and then I go to see my brother, and my brother's all like, "Hey, that's a really nice car." And mind you, back then I used to make $880 a month. $220 a week, and I was not working part-time, I was working full-time.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I go and take a look. I show my brother the car, and he's like, "Wow, it's really nice. Come into my office." So I go into his house, right? And he shows me in the computer. He's like, "If you take very good care of this car, in about 5 years, it'll be worth like $7,000." He said, "Or you can buy a house, and more than likely that house is going to be worth more." So he convinced me to not buy the car. And I'll tell you,
thank goodness for that advice, Elsie.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, and
it's a game changer. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but see, it was gonna be a very bad move for me because remember, I made $880. My payment was gonna be $375 on the car. I was gonna give $5,000 down that I had saved, earning $880 a month. So I had like saved a lot and did like little odd things here and there to make sure I saved. In fact, I just sold the house to a client that she knew me back then. I used to write everything.
Wow.
Going out to dinner back then was a jumbo jack with water, $1.07. I still remember. And I would write everything down. If I would get something from a vending machine, if everything, it was like, my
everything
God.
You tracked, everything you spent. Okay.
Exactly.
Wow.
And obviously living also in a really small space. I used to pay $200 a month to rent a 1-bedroom with a roommate. So it was pretty funny because we had a futon, and every 3 months we would switch. So it's like, now you have the bedroom for 3 months. I go to the futon and vice versa.
Kind of thing. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So, but I was able to save some money. Ended up buying a house. I bought the home. My brother was my realtor, and I'll tell you, fast forward 20 something years, and I actually sold that house, ended up building an 11-unit duplex project. And that project ended up helping me get the car of my dreams that I thought, and it wasn't really the car of my dreams because it was more so like I wanted it, but I knew that it was unattainable. So I don't know if that's considered dreams or not, but it was like a pie in the sky, ridiculous dream, I guess.
What do they call it? The big, you know what, Harry?
Yeah. Harry audacious dream.
There you go. But hold on a second.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. The 11-unit multifamily, that was Eagle Pass, right?
Oh yeah.
So let's bring it back home. So so your first investment, I didn't know this piece of your story. This first investment property, you sold that, and that's what you used to invest in that?
Yes. So 19-year-old. So I always say this when I'm making big decisions, I'm like, will my future self be happy I made this decision? So now I look back and I'm like, thank God at 19, I saw the light. Because what happens a lot of times, my brother could have given me the same advice, But if I was more close-minded, I would have been like, no, I want my car.
Yeah.
And growing up, my parents never had a nice car. I remember we would go like every now and then. Usually I would take the bus, but if they would drop me off, I'd be like, just drop me off like kind of like 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
You know, we were always old cars. And I really wanted to have a nice car. So, but you know what? And the other thing is I never had a nice car until I was 30 years old.
Okay.
And that was a used car. I bought my first new car when I was 42.
Wow. Okay, I want to stay in this moment. That's amazing. So you think about that. If you'd made that at 19 years old, how many people, and I remember I got my first like payment with, car payment at 23 after I graduated UCLA. And that was stressful, right? Because you always had that car payment, and that's 5 years of this payment. And it's just depreciating like crazy the minute you drive off the lot. So instead, you took that money, you bought an investment property. Now, did you immediately get other roommates in there with you to help you pay, or did you live by yourself in that house?
In my first house?
Yeah.
Oh no, I had roommates. I lived for free.
So you have. That's what. Let's talk more about that, because you've heard Diego talked about that on the bigger podcast. All that. What did you do? What did you do? Let's talk about that. You had other roommates move in the rooms, because a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I had a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath, and I rented both of the rooms out, and I was getting paid $300 on each room, or $325 actually. My payment was $680. I still remember, by the domain, like right by here.
Oh, nice. Right across the way.
$680.
Yeah.
$680. But I'll tell you this: I remember there were several friends at the job that I had making $880. So a lot of bright minds there, right? Yeah. Of course, a lot of us were real young, but people kept telling me, "Why are you buying a house? You are anchoring yourself down. And you're so young, don't do it. You're locking yourself in a prison cell for 30 years. And I was like, no, my brother told me I'm going to do it. So I took that. And one thing I learned there is if we do what most people do, we will get the results most people get. And most people, I mean, it's sad to say, but most people are struggling. And it's because they follow the herd. Versus saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do something different. I'm going to have some discipline. And I'm not going to go ahead and just spend my money without regard to what are the things you can do to create a better future.
Well, and you think about that. You didn't just buy a house, because some people buy the wrong house. They buy people are imprisoned by their mortgages if they buy houses they can't afford. And that you should always buy, like one thing that I learned is just, when I buy a house, like, could this be my next rental? Right. Exactly. And that's how I was able to build. But you think about that. So you could have lived by yourself, because a lot of people are like, I don't want roommates,
because they wanted privacy.
Whatever.
Yeah, privacy. I know, right?
You know what I mean? I don't want people in my space. But you didn't. Instead, you paid nothing for your mortgage. You let us give you
$30.
$30 to live in a house that you own.
That I own. And the scary thing was, and back then they were very flexible with mortgages, because think about it. I made $880. My mortgage payment was $680. But I'll tell you, because my brother Jesus was my co-signer.
Oh,
but I was the one paying for everything, because he didn't want to buy a house.
No, but he got you to be able to qualify, because you wouldn't be able to with that income level.
If not, I wouldn't have qualified.
Yeah.
And the other cool thing, I didn't have a car payment because he gave me my first car. So my brother Jesus hooked me up with a co-signature and stuff. And I'll tell you how things get paid forward. So fast forward just on that topic, I remember years later, he had not bought a house. He was already probably like 35 years old or something, 33. Yeah. And I come across this home that I wanted to buy. And when I tried buying it, long story short, I did not get approved because they were saying I was an investor disguised as an owner occupant, and that I had already bought too many homes and they would not approve my loan as owner occupant. So therefore they said, you have to buy as an investor. I call LC and I'm like, hey, look, this is what's going on. My down payment now is going to be like $30,000. He's like, do you have the money? I said, yes, buy it. And I go back and they don't let me buy it. And then I'm like, oh my God. I was like, why not? And they said, we made an agreement with the city of Austin that if we sell homes here on 51st Street and 183 Senate Hills, that we will not sell to investors. It has to be owner occupants. So I'm like, hold on. I think my brother will buy it. He does not own any homes. So I called my brother Jesus. I said, look, Jesus, this house is going to be in the family. So you have a choice. You buy it for yourself. You buy it for yourself. I'm going to pay everything, but it's mine, but it's going to be in your name. So I'm just going to be like, hey, later on, it's my house, right? Or we buy it together. And he's all like, what
And
would
not
you?
that we're implying to do mortgage fraud.
No. But check this out. So yeah,
I'm
because
just
it's
saying,
like
I'm clearing, I just want to make sure that everybody hearing that's not what
no
he's
mortgage
suggesting.
fraud. No. So then what he said, he's all like, what would you do in my shoes? I said, you know what? Frankly, I would buy it for myself. And he says, you know what? I'll buy it for myself. And he bought it. Now he still owns that house. He bought it for $173,000. That house is worth like 600 now. So you know he got me a car.
Yeah.
He co-signed for me. Well, guess what? It duplicates.
Isn't that
duplicates,
awesome?
and that's the beautiful thing about
it's
it.
more than duplicates. It's it's like compounds. Okay, so I want to also stick one more thing on that story. This is such good stuff. I just love people getting to hear where you started. So you sell that property that you bought when you're 19. You do the 11 units, which then that is what affords you. Now let's go back to the dream car. And I think, and it, you know, if you don't know, he drives this red Ferrari. When I got to be, took me to luncheon. It was so much fun. I was like, where go? It wasn't really about the Ferrari though. It's not really about that. It was about something reaching such a big, unattainable, which seemed as a, you know, when you wanted to buy that Mustang back when you were 19, right? Exactly. It was just the way of like proving to yourself what's possible.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful about it. And there, you know, it's not even about the car, so to speak, right? It's more of the how did you strategically put that in? So I think that's what's so powerful about that.
I think it's more a symbol of the journey and what I've been able to attain through just really keeping my head down and just working. And I'll tell you this, just to put it into perspective, you know, 4 kids, mom and dad, 2-bedroom, 1-bathhouse. That's what we grew up in. And what bedroom is really not a bedroom because you had to walk through it to go to the restroom. So the only bedroom was the master bedroom for my parents, which was real small.
Yeah.
And I remember having a friend over one time. And he's all like, I was getting ready. We were gonna go and party in Mexico, and I was maybe like 15. We start going out pretty young in the border. So it's 15, and we're like going to a club. And he gets there. He's like, hey, we'll get ready real quick. He's like, hey, give me your remote so I can watch the game while you're getting ready. And I was like, I don't have a remote. He's like, come on, stop playing. Give me the remote. I want to see the game. I was like, we do not have a remote. Go turn it on. Then he's like, what? And then he's like, man, it's so hot in here. Turn on the AC. I said, we do not have AC. So we didn't have AC growing up. No, my dad used to say that it was real bad for your health. So we would just sweat it out.
On the border of Mexico.
It's hot.
That's hot because it's hot here. This West Coast girl, man. Oh my God.
And I'll tell you this, my sister laughs at this forever because I remember she got married when I was maybe like 9 years old or 10 years old. And she lives in California and has lived there since she got married. One day she went to go do her hair, and I'm like there in the beauty shop with her, and I see them like doing her hair and have this little bottle that would shoot mist.
Okay, yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, hey, can I buy one of those? So we went to look for one. He's like, why do you want it? She's like, why do you want it? I said, because when I go to bed, I have that fan on that tripod or that standing fan back in the day that goes like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just be in bed and I would shoot it in the air and I would like feel the mist until I would fall asleep. Because literally I would fall asleep on one side and I was sweating and I would go to the other side of the bed. Yeah, I was spoiled. I had like not a queen bed. What's the one below? A full bed.
So you had a full bed. Wow. Yeah, you were. Are you the youngest?
I'm the youngest.
Okay, well, so that's why, because everybody moved out of the house.
I know I had gotten, back then, it was like I was 11 when my other brother moved out.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, I had it easy, frankly, compared to my brothers.
You're like an only child. By then.
Kind of, yeah. And then my older brothers and my sister, they would spoil me a little bit once they started earning money and stuff. And it was really cool, just, you know, kind of going from, hey, we got to share everything, to now it's like, oh, I have a little bit more space. Well, it felt like a luxury. Even though people are coming in and out of your room, you're like, that's great. I got a full bed. That's all I need. I got my mist and my fan. I'm good to go. Exactly.
So what happened then? You bought the house in Austin. What were you doing? Let's get back to your path. What happened then? Yeah. All right. What were you doing? Let's get to your career. What were you doing?
All right. So back then I was working as an insurance agent. I started working as an insurance agent at 20 or 21, I believe. And I walk in to pick up some rent. at my brother's prior broker's office. And I walk in, have a conversation with the receptionist, which I knew already because I would pick up the rent every single month. And the broker walks in, and it's John Horton from John Horton Realty. And he says, it's like, hey, Elsie, how's it going? And I turn around, he hears my voice, thinks I'm my brother. And then he's like, oh, you're not Elsie. We talked for about 2-3 minutes. And he's like, you know what? Have you ever thought about being in real estate? I said, my brother tells me quite frequently, but I don't know. He said, I've been doing this for over 25 years. You should get your license. I'm sure you would do well. And I call my brother. I'm like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get my license. I'm like, finally, what happened? And I tell him the story. He's like, sure, a stranger's got to tell you.
Of course. That's always how it is.
So now I didn't always take his advice.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you did. You just took longer.
It took longer. Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
Okay, so then what happened? And you were progressive, right?
Yeah, so I was at
With Amanda
Progressive.
Ponce.
Yeah, she was my boss. In fact, she was the one that taught me about sell signs. She's all like, you missed a buying sign. I was like, what is that? And I grew up playing baseball, so I was thinking they were gonna do like,
Yeah, like a hand gesture.
Like steal third, right? Throw a curveball or something.
Right.
So yeah, she was my first coach, and for sales, I got my license, and I just really dove in, not knowing much. And I'll tell you like how embarrassing it was. I remember this guy that asked me to show him a duplex or a house. And he's all like, hey, what does that number on the bottom mean? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. Let me go ahead and find that out, and I'll get back to you. And my brother's all like, that's days on market. That's how bad it was. I was like, oh my God, I did not know.
I love that so much. I love that so much. So okay, so now your brother, Elsie, that's the one was trying to get you in a long time. Now he was a fireman for a long time. So he did dual career for a really long time, just like Amanda did. Amanda Ponce is a former episode. If you scroll back and listen to her, that's an earlier episode. But did you go full in when you did it, or were you also dual career?
So I was part-time, and it was probably a lot of it had to do seeing him doing it as a dual career.
Okay.
But I did that I got my license in the summer of 2004. I picked up my first buyer just from a referral, but I didn't have any sales for 6 months. My first closing was actually January, like the first week of January or something, or no, I think it might have been late December. But either way, I was doing it part-time, yet the next year I remember making $48,000. I sold probably like 8 homes or 10 homes.
What were you making in the insurance world?
At Progressive, I was making maybe like 37.
Oh, so you had already beat that then. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
And I was like, in 4 months, I made like $40,000, and then I didn't sell for months because then what I was saying earlier is like, oh no, I don't know. I thought I was gonna be like Warren Buffett, and I was like, that's it, I made it, and then I was like, no more sales for a long time. But I had my secure job.
Yeah.
So it was like something I could kind of fall on. And I think it was a mistake staying that long. If I had to do it again, I think I would have signed up for coaching. I would have found a team that was already pretty busy and successful, and just like said, hey, I want to learn.
Yeah.
Tell me what I need to do. And doing whatever it took, because remember, it's like growing up, throwing out the trash. I remember my parents tried doing a little restaurant, and I was there everything. It was like the trash boy, pick up the delivery, you name it, like everything.
Whatever you need, I'm your guy.
Whatever, So whatever it takes, frankly. And it's like looking back, I was like, I wish I would have known that was a opportunity. I didn't. I saw this kind of like, you'll sell 5-10 homes a year, and you're good doing it part-time.
Yeah.
And then you get your other $35,000 at Progressive, and it would have been good.
Yeah. And then that's a good life. So what changed for you? When did you decide there was more to it than that, and that you should go all in and play to win in the real estate space?
So in the meantime, from 2000 maybe to like 2012, I did numerous network marketing. Okay. It was pretty cool. I know most people kind of turn their nose up at network marketing, or don't understand it and think it's like a pyramid, illegal pyramid or whatever. But one thing that I learned there was there's a lot of people that really want to push themselves to live a great life. People that say, hey, you know what, go ahead and read some good books. I see you have some real good books over here in the back. And then just kind of pushing ourselves to say, hey, you know what, we want to live a life above average. We want to live an epic life. And that actually, I think, helped so much. But I remember in 2011, I was doing real estate. I was working with network marketing intensively,
Yeah.
and I was working at Progressive. And I remember I ended up getting burnt out. Burnt out. I said, that's it. I cannot do this. I said, no more network marketing and no more Progressive. And I remember it got to the point, and it was a good job, awesome people there. But just the thought of saying I have to drive there, it would just get on my nerves. And I was like, this is not normal, because it was a cool job, great working environment. It was easy. I was on the phone. Sometimes I was like daydreaming about something, and I was like, oh my God, I've been on the phone for 5 minutes. And it seems to be going well.
Yeah.
I plugged in all the information,
Right.
but it wasn't
You're an
challenging me
autopilot.
mentally. Yeah.
You're an
So I
autopilot.
left.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the first year I left, I remember I adopted this mindset of I'll wake up when my eyes open. So that was like my thing. It was like, hey, so what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, I don't know. I was like, what time are you waking up? When I'm done sleeping. I was like,
That's
when I'm
funny.
done sleeping. And then
That's
I meet
really
Diego.
funny. Wow.
Then I meet Diego, and he tells me about a book called The 10X Rule.
Mhm.
And there's a line there that I felt like, Grant Cardone knew me personally, and he was like a little too much. Yeah. And he has a line that says there, it's like, you know what? There's a lot of people that say they are not thieves, that they would never steal from anybody, cheat and lie, whatever. But it does not mean that you're not a thief. He says, because I'll tell you this, if you're not living your life to your full potential, you're stealing from your wife, from your kids, from your family, and from yourself. And I was like, how rude. I was like, this guy.
When truth hits you in the face like that, right?
Oh, it was like Mike Tyson punched me like a combination. And it like woke me up. And I said, you know what? I need to do something. So then that's when I started, focusing more on real estate. Was the first year. That year was the first year I hit over $100,000. I remember
job.
Yeah, and I remember, yeah. In fact, when I had the job, I made like 80 something working part time.
Wow.
And then I did this. Remember, I took months of just relaxing and not really pushing myself. I ended up doing like 110,000, I think. That first year when I got serious, and then now it's like, oh my God, like what a difference.
I know.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about real estate is that there's no ceiling. You can make as much as you want.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first time I made $10,000 in a month in real estate, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then you make 20 and you're like, whoa. And then 50 and then more and more and more. And it's 100 and it's like, you know what? It's a decent month. And it's interesting. And then of course there's people like, Ben Kenny and all these
there's always
amazing people that you're like, wow, like for them making $100,000 a week would probably be a bad week.
Right. That's a day. How about 100,000 a day? But think about that though. You're so right, because everything is perspective and where you're sitting right now, right? Because it's like people look up to you now like that, right? Your team, I know your team of people, right? Collaboratively, cumulatively did $2.8 million in GCI.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
And you think about the whole reason why you could buy the car is because you believed you were worthy of it, honestly.
Yeah. And not only that,
and right, and I know I'm not saying go buy a Ferrari or whatever of that, but you've been saying that since I know you, so you should. We're doing it. That's
hey,
it's your life.
I don't know if I told you.
What?
This is not my first Ferrari.
Oh no.
Yeah, my first one was a little one. It was in my office for years.
Did it have bubble baths?
No, I wish. That would have been nice.
So cute. So okay, so you've been ready for that. But so you make the decision, you go full time, and then when I came north, you started getting real serious about growing the team.
Yes.
So today, what's your team look like today?
So we have a total of 12 agents right now.
12 agents, okay.
12 agents right now. And you know what? I became a little bit more purposeful now, because I'm like, you know what? We always need help. When the team starts getting busy, the newer agents can help out with the excess work that is required. Another thing, we already have 5, 180, Mac, Bell. We have 6 admins now.
See, and that was 1 before.
Yeah, and now we get to help the team focus on the things that matter, which is creating content, meeting clients, making calls, and all the back end work is done by the admins. So that saves a lot of time. That's why, like Lupe, he put 8 or 9 homes under contract last week. Last week.
This is a guy that came from a totally different field, and he's just talking. Yeah.
You should have him on.
I really, Lupe's
So,
story is amazing.
Yeah, so he was a teacher.
He's so under the radar too.
Oh,
He
yeah.
just comes in and works.
Oh, yeah.
8 or 9 last week.
He said,
Give
Victor,
me 5 over
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
That's
he
amazing.
said, just in the last 5 days, I put over $100,000 in GCI under contract. And he says, remember, that's 1 week. And back when I was a teacher, he would work all year long for like $65,000. And that was with him coaching and doing extra, being like a lead for the math department and you name it. And I'll tell you this, and he'll tell you, you should ask him when you interview him.
I will.
Because we're real friends. We're friends since we were in high school. I've known him for a long time, right? And
so he has a similar upbringing, probably.
Yeah, similar. He actually used to go work up in the fields up north in the summers. Yeah. Wow. But I'll let him tell you that story. Him on a team meeting too. Yeah, and the thing there was, as guys, we tend to, kind of like push each other's buttons just to like mess around. That's when you know you have a good friend, when they like beat you up with things, and when they stop, you're like, what's going on? Are we okay? What did I do? What did I do to you? Right? Yeah. So I remember I would post stuff about, personal growth and about, living your best life. And hey, you know what? You can have amazing vacations with money, or earning extra money to take amazing vacations. And his thought process is like, hey, money doesn't make you happy. And I told him not long ago, I said, hey, so what would this Lupe tell the old Lupe? And I'll let him tell you what he said. It was pretty funny. Was it funny? It was very funny, but I'll tell you this, like, one thing that makes me super happy now. He says, hey, the last year he calls me, he's like, hey, Victor, you know what? I was preparing to take my normal spring break vacation with my kiddos, and we're just gonna go to Splashtown or wherever they were gonna go here, Schlitterbahn or something like that. He says, but I see that you're in Cancun. What's the name of that hotel? It looks awesome. A week later, or maybe 10 days later, he was there with his 3 kids. His 3 kids were like, oh my God, we have room service, this, gelato, food, beautiful place. And he said, I couldn't. It's like, just seeing them happy was worth, and that's the thing. It's like, this doesn't mean that money replaces everything. But when we have extra money, we get to have choices and we get to experience life in a different level. Because it's like, yeah, we can go on vacation. We'll stay at a Red Roof Inn, or maybe somewhere that's a little bit worse, or stay in a super nice place. And it's like, yeah, you're still going on vacation. The experience is very different. And not to acknowledge that is just really, not being honest. And that's the thing. And it's like, whether it's travel or whether it's going out to dinner, right? And don't get me wrong, I still love eating my street tacos, but you go to a nice steakhouse, it's different. It is different. So and to see that transformation that he went through, like, that's why I'm like, you know what? Who else can we get into the team and help so that they can start living a life at a higher level? And I'll tell you this, yes, coaching, yes, guidance, a lot of it is scripts. And it's super funny because when I would share my scripts for certain things, he would write it down and he would practice and practice and practice. So in our meetings, after months, he would be like, hey, is it okay if I answer that question? And then he answered, is like, yeah, that's Victor's, but he's actually made them better. Yeah. So now I'm like, hey, what did you add? They plus it. Yeah, they plus it. And now, I mean, this guy puts them under contract like this, man. Wow. Like, it is amazing to see what he's been able to do. The teacher. Yeah, he's a teacher. So he knows how to listen and guide people. And teachers make great agents. Oh yeah. And he expresses himself very well. So I'm like, wow, amazing. Julio, same thing. It's like he tripled his income. It's just awesome to see. Well, Diego's life too. Oh yeah, Diego. I mean, he's become a real partner of yours, right? And now he's off teaching wealth building to other people, right? Oh yeah. And he's been on an episode. So that's so beautiful though, because I know you and I have had conversations earlier on about, that's one thing when you are the grinder, right? You're the one that's out there. You're kind of mastering the self, and you're out there and you're making things happen. You're taking care of clients. You got your family, but it's very much me centric, right? It's about me. I'm the star of the show and all that. And when you start taking people with you and you start opening doors, and that's why I've stayed in the team leader role 16 years, right? It's like people say, you changed my life. I said, listen, I open a lot of doors, but not everybody goes through them. Yeah. That's what you get to do when you have a team. And so for you to have
Lupe's story and everybody else's story, I mean, that's where you move from, and I heard Steve Chater say this early on. He said, at some point in your life, you move from success, whatever success looks like, it looks different for different people. Success
Exactly.
could be your happiness, your health, your
Yeah.
loving relationship with another partner, your money, what's in your bank, all the experiences with your family.
Mm-hmm.
But you move from, and it'll change your definition, but success is kind of about yourself. You move from success to significance
And fulfillment.
and fulfillment.
Yeah. When you see the transformation in others that are around you. And that's the thing. And
How
it's like,
amazing is that?
and I'll tell you, Melanie, like I look back and I'm like, you know what? Where I grew up to where I am right now, yeah, making more is, of course, is going to be welcome.
Yeah, right.
But I don't need to. And you know what? The other thing is like, say Lupe has a listing or anybody on the team has a listing, they put their own for sale sign. I don't need it to be mine.
Yeah.
I want them to grow. I want them to do something
Yeah.
that later on they're going to look back and say, wow, I've built something great.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it's like also creating an atmosphere where, say, like Lupe or any of the top agents. I had 3 people that did over 10 million. So they start getting a little bit busy, and guess what? They can go ahead and call one of the newer agents and say, hey, can you show a home for me?
Yeah.
Can you go to a walkthrough for me?
Yeah.
Can you do this? So we help each other out.
Yeah.
We pay, the agent that's helping out for a walkthrough, for a closing, you name it. So that way that person can go ahead and take care of stuff. Because again, sometimes we have 2 or 3 different things to do in one day, sometimes at the same time.
Yeah, and that's
so
the
that
beauty
helps.
of that.
That helps a lot.
So, okay, so my question that I ask every guest here comes.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
What does playing to win look like for Victor Nino?
Well, playing to win is just knowing that I'm better than last year and making my team better than last year. That's really it, because I think a lot of times when we just look of, hey, are we winning? We're not really growing. So I'll give you an example, like in baseball or basketball. I still remember there was a time we beat a team, and the team wasn't that good. We barely beat them, and we're like celebrating, and our coach was real mad.
Because you should have beat him.
Yeah. And we played horribly. I remember he made us run like for a whole week. We didn't touch the ball. We were not allowed to play basketball. We were just running. And he was just so mad that we did that, right? And where I'm going with that is just because you had, or you were agent of the month or agent of the year or whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah. You have to still get better than last year. And I remember hearing this from Gary Keller on a podcast. He said this is like, oh, you know what? Some friends told me, why do I work so hard? I already have a ton of money. He says, well, I work so hard because I love the journey. He says, I don't work for money. He's like, yes, you do. And this and that's like, no, because it doesn't matter how much money I have. I just want to go ahead and work. Mm-hmm. And right now, the way I see it is it's not because I want to earn more. And that's not the goal. It's more so like, hey, who can I pour into? Because I know that I would have loved to have somebody that could have poured into me like that.
Right.
Yeah, and that's cool. Yeah,
that's
and then
so cool.
And not only that, but it's like, your support here in the office, the team here, and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of unsung heroes, I think, when we're doing well, and for us to realize that it's not all about us, and to quickly get off your high horse if you ever start having thoughts that you're too awesome, Yeah. So it's like never be too cool for school.
Yeah, exactly.
and just be and
that humility,
right?
Well, being a student of life, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're already, and I love that you said measuring yourself, as long as I'm getting better than I was, as long as the team's getting better than it was, because that's really the only thing that you can measure is you against you.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And I'll tell you, like, we just got this information here from the team.
Yeah.
And compared to last year, we are actually at, check this out. So
I love this stuff.
I know. So
for those listeners on the podcast, he's looking up. And
so we have 19 deals already closed at $8 million. That's pretty awesome.
Already closed for the first month of 2024.
Already closed.
Woo-hoo.
So it's like super awesome. Also, we're like 56% higher than we were last year. So January of 23 to January of 24, 56.25% higher. And currently we have $493,000 in GCI pending.
Wow.
Yeah. And tracking numbers is important. That's another thing.
Let's talk about that. About team getting better, right?
So I'll tell you this. For years, maybe up until like 3 years ago, I didn't really know my numbers. Now I track everything.
I'm really glad you're doing that.
Why? Because if you don't know your numbers, you don't know where you're headed.
No.
You do not know where you're
You have
headed.
no idea.
And you don't know when you need to kick it into gear again.
That's
and
right.
say, hey, I need to wake up.
That's right.
And we need to track every single day what we're doing, how many people we're talking to. Because if we talk to too many people and they don't convert, then we're obviously saying things we shouldn't be saying.
Well, yeah. Well, then you can find the mystery of like the missing link. So, Victor, thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Okay, so here's a guy, they were already doing a lot of business, and he just recently started tracking like every single number, because it's like, I think Victor, why people resist that is they think it's like being micromanaged or what. It's not. There's no emotion. It's actually the activities that you're tracking, so you can find those loopholes. Because if maybe the whole challenge is you're just not having enough conversations. That's most of the time. That is most of the time. I know it is for me. I'm just not having enough appointments. If my numbers are down, I just know I'm not having enough appointments, because I'm an at-bat closer person. I'm just not having enough, and it's not a judgment. It's like, okay, I know that about myself. Now, if I'm having a bunch of appointments and they're not converting, okay, well then what changed? What's going on with my conversion? But see, you can look at that. And also, how in the world can you know what's coming and predict that?
Exactly.
If you're not, but that's where people move from being this entrepreneurial, fly by the seat of my pants to an actual business owner, because they just know their numbers. The fact that you know that your team is up 56% this January over last January.
Yeah, and we've been tracking it probably for 15 months.
It's
so
amazing.
Now we're like, and of course
now you have real data, which is great too.
At the beginning, our tracking was really subpar, but at least we started somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So, and another thing I learned was this, that, a lot of times we have a tendency in real estate to be like, oh yeah, I'm the CEO or I'm a business owner. And then we find out when we really dig into it that our business owns us.
That's right. Oh.
And we can't leave. We can't be off of our phone because things don't move forward. Now, and I will tell you this, even now with whatever we're doing, I'm still not a business owner.
Yeah.
The business still owns me.
That's right.
And slowly, and now I remember hearing this, from Gary Keller. He says, your job is to fire yourself from every single job in the real estate business. And I was like, I'm going to be unemployed. But that just goes to show where my mind was. I didn't understand. But it's like, think about it. If you go put up signs, then you're the sign person.
You're the runner. There's one guy.
If you go make copies of keys for your clients, then that's what you are. Paperwork, you name it, every single thing. So it's like, hey, you know what? You can delegate that. You can pay someone to do it. And that goes also for our home. I haven't mowed a lawn since 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I'm going to spend an hour and a half doing something I don't like. If I loved it, it would be different, but I used to mow lawns.
People love it, right?
I used to mow lawns and I fell out of love fast. I used to mow lawns when I was a teenager. So you know what? I said, instead of doing that, I'm going to read a book, or I'm going to make some calls, or I'm going to go meet with some clients or meet with some friends and be out. So it's like, how much are those things costing you in GCI because you are not delegating? And those little things are the things that add up.
Huge.
Oh yeah.
And people don't even know how to value their dollar value on themselves, right?
Because they don't track and they don't know how much money they earn.
Because they're not paying attention. Exactly. They don't know their numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I know that was such a game changer for me personally, just getting some help at home. I needed help at home. I was pretty much raising two boys and doing this.
But you are Superwoman. So
I
think you did it better. You did it better than the average woman.
Yeah.
Because you're Superwoman.
Well, thank God. I do have the superpower, but
I know.
even with that,
I saw your sign in the door.
So I think about that. Okay, so let me ask you this: what are you most proud of when you look back at your entire journey? And I know you have two beautiful girls and an amazing wife. I mean, Monica, now she does look really like Wonder Woman. So she is amazing. Beautiful. And she supports your business.
Yeah.
Like, I love the family. But what do you, Victor, most from your whole journey, when you look back, is there something that you're most proud of?
That I've always chosen to do the right thing. Like, one of the things in our team that we have is we say, oh, we took the X class. And what that means is, I remember one time I forgot to put on the page 1 on exclusions that my client was keeping their curtains and curtain rods. I made the mistake of not putting on there, and guess what? I had to buy curtain rods.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And another time there were stagers. the stagers curtain rods, and I didn't put on there. So guess who paid for them? It was me. And so I took the class twice. So I'm not a great student.
Funny.
Yeah, but then
Plus, it took you 2 times. Some people
yeah,
have taken
and we had another one where there was like a built-in, somewhat like a grill, and that was given to my client by his brother that had passed. It was like, I am not leaving that behind. So we called the agent. I was like, hey, we're gonna buy you a new grill. Which one do you want? And that was like a $600, $700 class, and it's always doing the right thing. So if, that's the thing that I'm the most proud of, and not only that, but it's like rubbed off on the team. Diego had one where it's like $50,000 class. That was massive. But I'll tell you this, he did the right thing. He didn't even think twice. He didn't anything. He just said to the client, I'll take care of it. The client was happy. The client has done business with him again and referred so many people. And this person is an influencer that's known like nationwide, like with literally millions of followers. But he did it. Why? Because we had exercised always doing the right thing, even when it was small. That when it's big, it doesn't matter because it's still doing the right thing. Yes.
And you will never regret that either.
Yeah. That to me, I would say.
Okay, most proud of. I love that. What are you most excited about when you look forward to the rest of your life? Because amazing story to get where you were from this 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath, no air conditioning, fan where you'd spray water so you can fall asleep. People passing through your bedroom, you're sharing it with older siblings, all the things, to the man you are today, who shows up the way that you do with this beautiful family and an amazing team. And I love being in business with you, and you know that. Like, what are you most excited about moving forward?
One thing that I've enjoyed a lot is buying my time back. They say you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. But then I realized that you can actually buy time by paying others, so that they can do the things that maybe you shouldn't be doing, so that you can spend them doing the things you really love. And what I'm really looking forward to is firing myself from more responsibilities, empowering others to learn so that they can get theirs in the future, but they have to go through the process in order to really appreciate it for what it is. So for me, it would be spending more time with my family. That's what I have. And maybe buying a couple more properties. Our goal is to get to 25 passively. And then we're good just from real estate, and then the rest from the real estate business.
Amazing.
So I think that's going to be a great thing once it happens. But it's important also to enjoy the journey
while it's happening.
Yeah, because sometimes we're like, oh, when I get X, when I get Y, then I'll be happy. But you have to be happy as you go. Like right now, I'm coming up the elevator, and this girl, I'm like, hey, how are you doing? It's like, okay. And it's like, what about you? And I'm like, oh, I'm doing amazing. It's like, amazing? Why? I was like, because I woke up today. I was like, because if not, it would have kind of ruined my schedule.
I would have been very bummed about it. Not having an episode would make your new.
I know. Yeah.
That would have been a regret of mine. Yeah, for sure. And I love that though. But that's the energy you carry around you every day, which I love. Is you live in the moment. You live in who's in front of you. You have this gift of like whoever you're talking to, like no one else is there in the world. And I think that's you're very present when you're with your girls. You're very present, and when you're work, man, you're focused on your work. And so I want people to hear your story, that it didn't start, nothing was handed to you. And anything is possible. I think people give up on themselves, because if you've given up on yourself, there's no way you can create the life that you want. So it needs to start with themselves, right?
One of the best things that I ever heard was in a network marketing company. And this guy, amazing guy, Francisco Vasquez, he said this: humans are designed to prosper and have an amazing life, but they program their mind to lose. And I'm like, wow, like think about that. We're designed for an amazing life, but we fill our mind with so much negativity that we program it, and then we end up losing. And it's like, to me, it was just like, wow. So it's like, that is one important thing. Another thing is like, when it comes to expenses, we have to act our wage. I say, hey, act your wage. Don't act over your wage, because then that's when you start having problems. And reinvest in the business. This is one of the things that I think a lot of agents make a mistake, that they don't invest in the business. It's always take, and they don't feed the business. So it's like, what coaching do you need? what program, what system do you need to invest in? And just think about this, and I've told you this before, in real estate as an agent, how much money do you have to spend to get a license active? Not much.
Not a lot, yeah.
But you know what? If I started a little taco truck, I'd have to go buy the truck, go get permits, go buy all the food, go pay rent,
Yep,
like, you know, $2, $3, $4,000 to be in a corner outside.
that's right.
But then we complain that we don't have business because we don't invest in our own.
Yeah.
And that comes with whether it's our attire, whether it's the way we're communicating with clients, and that's by learning with your coach and so forth. So that's like super, super critical for us to realize how important it is. And I was on this call with Nicole Zuber today, and it's like it is all coming together now, where it's like we have the data, we have the info we need, so we can start building on it. But if we don't pay attention to that, then we don't know where we're headed. We're driving basically with the lights off, and
Right.
it's the middle of the night.
Right. You have no metrics to measure, where you, like, you can't have the compass of where you want to go if you don't know where you are right now, right?
Exactly.
Part of that is both ways. So, okay, that's so good. This has been amazing, and we're out of time, but let's finish with last parting thoughts.
Mhm.
Is there something that we didn't cover that you wanted to cover? The audience, my listeners, I really always want to share, like, the whole, like, never give up mindset, or it's never too late to create the life that you want, whatever, because you just, me, the last 3.5 years of getting to work much closer with you, it's been really fun to be part of your guys' journey and see you guys explode.
Oh yeah.
And where a lot of people are down, the industry was down. And when I asked you thought you were down, kind of, but then I was like, wait a minute, look at this, though. Look at you. You're up January 56% because you know your numbers. But that's focus around it. It's energy. It's how you show up. I mean, you're a master of conversations. I think it's like you're always working on mastering your craft. But just what last thought would you like to share, or advice would you give to somebody who's listening today?
What I would say is this, and I've said this before, if you look back at the last time you had a job, and you had a boss that made you work extra hard, arrive extra early, leave late, and basically piled on work, a workload that was unbearable at times to carry. If you have that same mindset and you apply that amount of energy to this business, you will become a multimillionaire easily. There is no ceiling to how much we can earn. The other thing is this: in this business, we can earn more than doctors, surgeons. We can earn a ton of money. Like, I remember this. So I'll just to put it into perspective. I remember being at Mega Camp and I see $89 million, Ben Kenny, and I was like, man, we're close. This was like several years ago. We did like 60 million or something. Man, we're close. And then it says GCI. I was like, oh, we're real far. So just think about,
because one is volume and one is the dollars that correlate to very different numbers.
So he had made $89 million in 1 year. And I was like, wow, I felt like this small. But you know what was so cool? I felt so happy because I was like, man, there's so much room to grow. Like, think about it, 2.8, 2 point whatever, even $3 million next to 100 million is peanuts. But the beautiful thing about it is that the excitement comes from, hey, there's room to grow. And not have the mindset as like, he makes more and I'm like too little, and have like an issue with that. And to me, I get excited. Whenever I meet somebody that's doing better than me, I always get excited because it's like, wow, there's room to grow. What can I learn? Yeah.
Well, and a lot of people that would let themselves shut down over that, right? Oh, I'll never get there, and throw in the towel. People say to me, oh, Melanie, it's because I said, what? What do you mean? Hey, nothing is handed to anybody. Most of the successful people have some kind of story. That's why I love this show, because people are like, what? I had no idea Victor and Nino grew up on the border in a 2-bedroom with no air AC. Right? And all the things, and when you talk about your payment, I mean, all the stuff, but it's the never giving up thing. And that's why I love the idea of when you hear $89 million in earned income, guys, $89 million of revenue, like, generated from his multiple locations and everything. How massive is that? And I don't think any of us even realized that was even possible when we started. And it just keeps bigger and bigger and bigger because we're all growing. So I love that you said, you know, anything is
yeah.
possible, and Lupe is a living testament, you're a living testament, so many people on your team are living testaments of that.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
and it's never too late to start though, that's the
yeah.
thing.
And see, I think that before you even have a team, say in real estate, you need a team at home. Because I'll tell you, like my wife and I mean, she helps so much with the girls. Like if I'll tell you, even when my firstborn, you know, would stay up at night, I would end up sleeping in another room so that I could be, you know, ready for the next day because I'm the provider for the house, and I needed to make sure that I was on my game per se, right? But in her saying yes, I'm gonna do it, and it was tough. Like I know it was so tough. I'll just tell you this, the first night our baby slept the whole night, we woke up and we're like high-fiving, like we had gone to the best event ever or whatever. You know, like when you're young, you get excited with a concert or something like that. We were excited because we slept all night uninterrupted. We're like, yes,
the baby did not wake us up.
yeah, but it starts with the team at home.
Yeah.
And that will allow us to then focus in business as well.
That's beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you have built and are building and continue to build a beautiful life. And it's such an honor to be in business with you. And I'm so excited that now I have a Victor Nino episode.
Yes.
Okay, guys, play to win. Bring them home.
Yeah.
That we're wrapping up. Anything else you want to say?
Just focus on today. Every single day, do what you need to do. It might be repetitive, it might be boring, but I'm going to tell you the stuff that you do when nobody's watching will be acknowledged in public every single time.
Always, always. Well, thank you, Victor.
Yes.
I'm excited to see what 2024 brings for us. And, you know, I'll edit this later out, but next Thursday we have our awards. And I'm
cool.
very excited about that. See how you turned out in the
I
market.
know,
Are
right?
you
We'll
excited?
see. Yeah, we'll see.
I can't
Thank
wait.
you.
Like, can't keep a secret. Okay. Thank you for watching. We will see you on the next episode of Playing to Win Live, and watch for the next edited version of the second half. Bye, Victor. Bye, everybody.